First time on the air in 3 years, V. Longhurst and Muriel Pollack, one of radio's most famous two-piano teams. Oh, I can remember it way back in the first years of radio. They used to come down to the studio, two little kids in pinafores and pigtails. They appeared on many programs, both sustaining and commercial, from 1930 to 1938. V. Longhurst and Muriel Pollack will first play Frenesy. That was swell, girls, and now for a rather unfamiliar little number, I Hear a Rhapsody. And that was V. Longhurst and Muriel Pollack, ladies and gentlemen. And they're just as good and a whole lot better than ever. Thank you, girls. Thanks a lot. I hope you come often. Grand play. Letters from listeners. Each week we invite the listeners to Behind the Mic to write us about radio. And almost every week the questions we consider to be of most general interest we have answered on the air. This afternoon's questions will be answered by Behind the Mic in the person of our announcer, Gilbert Martin. Marjorie Meyer of Staten Island, New York, wants to know, when you write to a personality on the radio, does he or she receive his own fan mail or does the station keep it?
Well, letters to radio personalities addressed in care of a radio station are almost always forwarded to the personalities themselves or to the radio agency in charge of their programs. Now, in the latter case, the mail is generally re-forwarded from the agency.
Robert Mallory of San Francisco, California asks, what is the name of the musical introduction by which you open and close your program?
The musical introduction of Behind the Mic is an original composition of our orchestra leader, Ernie Watson, who, incidentally, we may proudly say, has a reputation of being one of the best composers and arrangers in radio, and he quaintly calls it Opening Theme.
The same listener asks this question. When the Mr. District Attorney program begins, a man's voice says, "And it shall be the duty of the District Attorney." The voice seems to echo as if in a large hall. How's this echo effect produced?
Well, the echo effect is produced by the use of what is known as an echo chamber, and this is done as follows. The voice is carried from the studio electrically into a hard-surfaced room, which causes the voice to reverberate like an echo. It is then picked up, that is, the voice and not the room, by a microphone within the room and is carried back to the studio where it goes out over the air.
Ralph Solomon of St. Louis, Missouri asks, if I'm not at home but my telephone is answered by the maid, can I win that pot of gold?
Yes. If the phone is answered by anyone, the pot of gold goes to the person in whose name the telephone is listed.
Not the maid. Sis Hirsch of Plainfield, New Jersey, writes in to ask, who plays the leading role in Big Sister?
Alice Frost, whose contract, incidentally, has just been renewed. Her 21st renewal in 5 years of starring on this program.
Thank you, Gilbert Martin. Undoubtedly one of the finest radio actors of the Negro race is Juano Hernandez. He's also a mighty fine director and a writer, too. He directed and acted the title role of the famous John Henry dramas on the air. Juano brings us a highly dramatic story about one of his broadcasts. Take the microphone, Juano Hernandez.
Thank you, Graham McNamee. A couple of years ago, I appeared on the Rudy Valley Hour in a dramatization called Voodoo.
Voodoo?
Yes. True voodoo is actually a religion and is not a thing of evil, as many believe, but rather it strives to do good.
Well, what was the dramatization about, Juano?
Well, it took place in the swampland of the South, and it was about a man whose girl's affections had started to wander. In order to bind her to him for the rest of her life, he conjured her mind. There was a very effective scene in the dramatization in which I was the man supposedly using the charm power of black magic. After the broadcast was over, a Negro woman in the studio audience from the West Indies sent a card to me and asked if she could speak to me, and I agreed.
Mr. Hernandez, I'm in a very serious situation mentally, and I feel that you can help me a great deal.
In what way?
Well, I listened very carefully to your voodoo drama this evening. You wrote it, did you not?
Yes?
I knew that was not written by an ordinary radio writer, but by somebody who was versed in voodoo. But I can't talk to you here. Will you please make an appointment to see me at my hotel? I wouldn't ask you unless I was in great trouble and I felt that you could help me.
Well, Juano, did you make an appointment to see her?
Yes, I did. It was such an unusual request, I felt I couldn't very well refuse. I went to her hotel apartment. She told me that she was a concert pianist, and that for some time she had been interested in the occult sciences, and she really was in trouble.
You see, Mr. Hernandez, through the help of these teachers, I've advanced to the point where I have little belief that I exist in the flesh. And often I have the most wonderful visions. Beautiful stretches of desert with varicolored palm trees, lovely cities and strange people that seem to be not of this earth even. But these experiences last only a short time, and they're followed by several days of physical exhaustion and mental depression, during which I feel as if I want to run in front of every passing bus and kill myself.
Go on, please.
And that's not the worst of it. I've delved so deeply into the occult that for the past few months I feel I'm possessed by a horrible demon. He's wrapped himself completely around me. It's a humpbacked creature with no visible features, although he has a head. Whatever he tells me to do, I feel I have to obey.
Well, how can I help you?
When I heard you on the radio program, I knew you were a master of voodoo.
Not a master, please. A student. But go on.
In my present condition, I feel that only a master of voodoo would have the power over this demon who possesses my every thought.
Well, what did you do, Wano?
Well, I knew that in her condition, she was almost a psychiatric case. Realizing that she had confidence in me, I decided to fall in with her suggestion that I help her. Before doing anything, I tried to convince her that when you have extrasensory experiences, such as the hallucinations that she had deliberately sought, you must pay for them. Thus, her nervous depression and her imagined demon. But that wasn't enough. She had faith in the powers of voodoo. So I wrote her a mantra, or voodoo prayer, which I had collected during my research in voodooism. I said to her, "Here, take this. And whenever you feel that demon mastering you, read the mantra and try to think that I'm trying to help you."
Read it to me.
Evil powers are in the earth. I am full of their visitations. My body and my spirit labor with confusion. But hear me, all the earth. Hear me, all flesh and all spirits. The infinite mind is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Peace in bone, peace in flesh, peace in spirit, and peace in mind. Such is my heritage. And henceforth, no power shall deny me this. A student of the Master gives his aid to this purpose. The student's doctrine is pure. All evil powers henceforth depart from me, now and forever. So commands Ubayos.
And did this help her, Wano?
Here are some actual excerpts from letters I received from her within the space of 2 months. The first one said,
You're so very kind to help me. I do thank you. I'd be wonderfully grateful for a permanent healing.
Shortly afterwards, she wrote this.
I'm frantic and without funds and rent money half of the time, all because of this sickening annoyance and lack of sleep.
Later, she wrote,
This vampire makes me feel weak and cramps my style.
And then, after about 6 weeks had passed,
The last 2 days are really better. Instead of passionately wishing every bus would put me out of my body, I've been thinking of my piano.
you see, as I said, she was a concert pianist. Her last letter said,
I'm all right now, only tired. Isn't it wonderful to have the spring again?
by spring, she meant the recovery of her mental equilibrium. She's all right now, and I don't think she'll ever try to delve into the occult again.
Wano, I think that's not only a remarkable example of the powers of mental suggestion, but it shows as well what a radio performer can be called upon to do. Thank you, Wano Hernandez. Thank you. Next week, Behind the Mic shows you how a radio dramatization of a jailbreak was written and produced at the same time the event was taking place. A remarkable human interest story involving a $1,000 prize winner and a recent prize contest. A winner who really needed that money. And we salute another program you loved, and we bring you more of the glamour, the comedy, and the tragedy that are found behind the mic. Remember, next week, if your community does not have daylight saving time, Behind the Mic will be heard an hour earlier. This is Graham McNamee speaking. Good afternoon, all.
Behind the Mic is written by Mort Lewis. Original music composed and conducted by Ernie Watson. This program was heard in Canada via the networks of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and this is the Blue Network of the National Broadcasting Company.